Welcome to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tattooing Network.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Your source for the latest Legion news, opinion, and analysis.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
John Archiquette.
Will somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way?
Matt Turner.
I'm not afraid.
And Joshua Gray.
You will be.
What's going on, Outriders? John, Josh, and Matt coming to you live from the Hive of Scum and Villainy here, Power 9 in Las Vegas. And despite the fact that we're in Las Vegas right now, I'm going full Wisconsin mode. I'm
Your heart lies elsewhere.
Yeah.
Your thoughts are with your friends.
So as we've, thinly disguised, a few of us are sports ball fans here.
Sports ball!
You seem really antsy, I gotta say.
I'm extremely antsy because we started the podcast recording at a normal time, and the Milwaukee Brewers are in Game 1 of the NLDS. And it's currently the top of the ninth inning. We're up by 1 run now because the Rockies in real time just scored a run. And I'm really afraid that I'm going to have a meltdown while recording this podcast.
I'm going to have to take that phone away from you, I think.
Yeah. Look, this isn't part of the deal, okay? I'm doing the podcast.
I have altered the deal.
Pray I don't alter it further.
I think it's remarkable that we have managed to find the one Milwaukee Brewers fan in America.
Look, we don't leave Wisconsin, okay? They don't let us leave
Wisconsin.
Do
you mean Brewers or baseball fan?
Baseball.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's what I said, right? Milwaukee Brewers. I did say Milwaukee Brewers.
Well, typically they don't let us leave the state of Wisconsin.
I'm just saying, how many baseball fans are there?
There's dozens
outside
of
of like the East Coast.
Dozens of us.
Dozens.
Literally tens of fans care about this game.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah.
All right, I suppose that's enough sports talk for right now, so I don't.
Are you
devolve
sure?
Any further
you get it all out of your system?
I may need that restraining bolt. I'm just
pass it on over. It's a little damp.
Anyway, guys, we got a Legion stuff to talk about. It's more important. Josh, don't you turn that phone around.
So we apologize ahead of time for any sudden outbursts in the middle of the podcast.
There may be some either extreme excitement
profanity,
or profanity. Yeah. Well, we'll blank that out because we're going to try to keep this all ages.
Yes.
Anyway, before we get any further into the weeds. What's going on, guys? How you been?
Hi.
Good.
I'm going to be here for the full show this week,
Yay,
I promise.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah. Sorry. I know you all missed me.
I missed your musk.
Should we be roommates? Should we get a place together?
Pungent musk.
Yeah. Is that how that should work?
Just don't build bunk beds. That's all I ask.
But we have so much more room for activities.
Why would you build bunk beds?
Or
one bed.
Either that or...
come on. I'm the big spoon.
It's just got
That's
weird.
All.
Oh, boy.
Weirdly interesting.
Right. Star Wars, right? That's what we're
Star Wars. We start out with the Star Wars stuff.
So we got some pretty good Star Wars news within especially the last 24 hours. But
another TV show that nobody cares about, I'm sure.
We'll get to that in a second.
Punch
Matt,
yourself in the face, please.
Matt, what do you got for us here?
Okay, so we'll start with what I'm anticipating is the least popular news, just based on everybody else's reaction. But Kathleen Kennedy has extended her contract for another 3 years
hooray.
as president of Lucasfilm. So
whatever pictures she
congratulations.
Whatever pictures she has of Bob Iger are really good.
Whatever. I mean, she's earned back 4.6 of the $4.9 billion that went into purchasing Lucasfilm. So
I could have done that. I think, okay?
But you
it's
didn't.
Star Wars.
You didn't. Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Star Wars is a license to print money.
Right now, so.
If you have a Star Wars license and it fails, you fail. I mean, that's just quit.
Okay.
Well, unfortunately, like Roger Goodell, just because you're successful doesn't necessarily mean you're doing the right thing for the franchise.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anybody could make money with the Star Wars license,
and yet here we are.
Ugh.
Well, moving on to other news.
We take the good with the bad.
Oh my god. Okay.
Just stop firing good directors.
What?
Kathleen Kennedy, stop firing good directors. I know, right?
Matt, do you want the restraining bolt?
Can I bludgeon myself to death with it? But anyways, sailing on. Okay, so Star Wars. I think everybody's heard The Mandalorian. But yes, the Mandalorian is the now named series that Jon Favreau is going to be working on.
I'm so stoked for this.
This is super cool. So this is what he put up on his Twitter page the other day. It's after the stories of Jango and Boba Fett, another warrior emerges in the Star Wars universe. The Mandalorian is set after the fall of the Empire and before the emergence of the First Order. We follow the travails of a lone gunfighter in the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the authority of the New Republic.
Ooh.
Dude, that sounds dope.
It sounds Wild West.
Yeah,
is
it
what
does,
sounds.
and that's my favorite Star
Yeah.
Wars.
Yeah, like I
love Wild West Star Wars.
I'm here for that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of really what it was to begin with, though. It was kind of like
Yeah.
a spaghetti western set in space.
Exactly, and I'm super excited for that. You found out some more news on it, though, that you were telling me about.
So this is kind of cool. So the StarWars.com page, because I followed on Facebook,
Of course you do.
they put out the first image, of course,
Uh-huh.
which shows Boba Fett in all his glory.
Is
That's
it
not
Boba
Boba
Fett?
Fett.
It's just Mandalorian.
I'm sorry,
just a Mandalorian.
It is a Mandalorian.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
but it is.
Yeah.
He's resplendent with all sorts of spectacularness. We'll put it that way. He just looks awesome. Okay, you're right. It is not Boba Fett. It is-
Yeah, no. Different helmet, different
Yeah.
armor.
I'm sure
the
this will
gun
not
he
be
has strapped to his
following.
back is pretty neat. Though.
I am hopeful that we will finally have this series explore what happened to Boba Fett, though, whether he actually died or he survived, and put that to rest for once, because it's in the right time frame. He could still be running around the galaxy, maybe not as Boba Fett, but
True. Well, they announced the list of a few of the directors who have already been confirmed to be doing episodes for this, and some of these may sound familiar. Deborah Chow, who was, I guess, one of the directors for some episodes of Jessica Jones.
oh, okay, cool.
Rick Famuyiwa, who is director from Dope. I'm not familiar with that.
familiar with that one.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Surprising.
Yeah, which
She's going to wear heels the entire time.
Has she directed before?
not that I know of. It says Soulmates, so I'm not sure what Soulmates is, but
yeah. I mean,
she may have
Are you
directed-
IMDbing that right
Yes,
now?
I am,
Okay,
actually.
cool.
okay.
Who else we got?
But I mean, she's been a pretty well-known actress for a while, and I mean,
Gee,
Ron
if your
Howard,
dad's Opie, I think you might be able to get some directing tips from him.
Right.
exactly. So
You know, since he replaced one of those fired directors.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Because the last
that-
product
that's
that,
cool.
that
Who
Howard
else?
directed did so great.
Solo was good. Come
Solo
on
was
now,
good.
we're not.
Anyways,
we're,
yeah.
we're gonna keep defending that one.
Yeah.
Solo was amazing. Anyway, and Taika Waititi,
I'm so hyped for that.
super stoked about that.
I hope he does a bunch of episodes and they're all fantastic, and somehow he gets his was it Korg, his rock monster persona in there.
So yeah, for those guys who
Piss off,
aren't,
Force Ghosts.
aren't familiar with his name, you're probably more familiar with his resume.
Yeah.
He was the director of both Thor Ragnarok and What We Do in the Shadows.
And actually starred in one of
started,
the,
yeah. Well, he was in both
with,
of those as
with
well.
Flight of the Conchords. Yeah.
But I mean, if you haven't seen, I mean, everyone's I think pretty much seen Thor Ragnarok. If you
think
haven't
so.
seen What We Do in the Shadows, it is phenomenal.
It's hilarious.
It's a
for a low budget, mockumentary type
yeah.
thing.
It's like a mockumentary about a group of vampires who live together in New Zealand.
In New Zealand.
And it's hilarious. It's it's an offbeat kind of humor. Like
It's perfect for Spooktober now, and
True,
I think
yeah.
it was last I saw it was streamable on Amazon Prime. So
I think you're right. Yeah.
yeah, who doesn't have that these days? Prime citizens, please attend
Right.
to your Prime meals.
But it's I mean, one of those movies where it's not overly scary, but it's got some elements
all?
of horror in it. Yeah. But it's hilarious.
Well, it's
though.
over the top gore. It's kind of like Bruce Campbell
Yeah.
gore. It's just blood shooting everywhere.
Sure, but it is a hilarious.
Maybe not
movie.
for the smallest children, but overall, very funny. But yes, so he's going to be doing.
So he's doing an
some
episode,
directing.
which
Okay.
man, I hope it's more than one episode.
I do too.
because
I mean,
I really like his stylistic choices he uses.
he's so hot right now.
He really is.
Yeah.
He's honestly so hot right now.
Did you find any credits on?
None.
None?
Has
Okay.
no directing credits that I could find. But
Okay.
So yeah,
Still.
and of course the EP credits: John Favreau, Dave Filoni,
Oh, sure.
Kathleen Kennedy, and Colin Wilson.
Cool.
So yeah, so
Nice.
I'm excited to see more information on
do
this.
you know what this means?
What does
So
this
much
mean?
more Mandalorian source material is going to be coming our way over the next few years, including, I'm sure, an entire Mandalorian faction for Star Wars Legion and X-Wing.
God, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope that's
That'd
what
be
this ends
nice.
up meaning.
That'd be super
Yeah.
So what of the Mandalorian history has not been retconned? Like
define.
so the stuff from like Knights of the Old Republic Was that stuff retconned?
I think that's still semi-canon.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
sure.
Well, you mean like dumped from the EU, like from
like
official
Old
canon,
Republic,
basically?
Yeah.
Do they have Basilisk War droids and all that kind of stuff riding around?
I don't know if any of those games were ever really considered canon to begin with.
There was a tier back in the
Yeah.
day, and it was like films, then books, then comics, then video games, or something
Yeah.
like
But
that.
those, I mean, those are set like what 10,000 years
Yeah,
prior
so it doesn't
to
really matter.
Sure.
A New Hope. So,
But
there's not
what
a whole
we do
lot
have of
yeah.
the Mandalorians now is what exists in Clone Wars mostly,
And Rebels.
and a little bit of Rebels.
Well,
yeah, absolutely. With
House
Sabine.
Vizsla and all
Yeah,
that stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, because in KOTOR, they did explore quite a bit with the Mandalorians.
Yes.
So we know that they existed back then.
Right.
Right. They've
Yeah.
been around for a long time.
More in Knights of the Old Republic 2 than the
Yeah.
first one.
It was
yeah.
a very different one from what we saw when like Maul and Satine and all those guys were running around on Mandalore. It was more of a confederation of like-minded
Tribes.
yeah,
More
tribal.
tribal,
But
yeah.
you don't have to be any particular race. You can, if you're worthy, you can join our tribe and you can be a Mandalorian.
Okay. So, within Legion, if we were expecting maybe to see them at some point, do you think that they're going to be? You said you think they'll be their own faction?
I would love to see them as their own
Absolutely.
faction.
I don't know if Basilisk war droids are
No, probably
old,
not that
too
kind
old,
of stuff. Yeah.
but they'd be awesome.
But I mean, Imperial Super Commandos,
Sure.
Gar Saxon, all these kind of guys that could definitely, the Wrens could be running around, and I'm sure we could throw in some vehicles to, spice it up, and I'm sure we'll be getting tons of that
right.
in concept art and episodes coming up for the show. So
Nice. Well, I think
I'm totally fingers crossed for that.
yeah, that's it's one of the most promising things I've seen.
Yeah.
Star Wars related.
Very exciting.
I was hesitant on Solo before it came out, and I really liked it. What they ended up doing with it, but I wasn't as optimistic as I am with the Mandalorian.
Yeah. I think they've got some good names attached to the project, so high hopes. Josh, I know you're ecstatic and wonderful.
Oh, I am. I think it's awesome.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I never know with you, man.
No. I mean, this is something I'm totally
gotta
on
feel
board
the temperature of the room.
I mean, John's seen my office at work. How many Boba Fetts are in there?
A lot of Boba Fett.
Yeah, like 20.
Yeah.
So
none of them are anatomically correct though. Either.
no, it's all
They're all-
bobbleheads and mighty mugs and all that kind of stuff.
One of them looks like he's like juiced out of his mind.
Right.
The other one's got like a giant head.
Yeah,
When you said anatomically correct, I thought you meant like Ken doll or something.
because
Like
he
what
checked.
kind of
Well,
stuff
He
is he
checked.
putting up there?
have we ever confirmed how well endowed Boba Fett really is?
Well, hopefully the series will explore it more for us.
Have they mentioned a network this is going to be on yet, or is it on a streaming
Oh,
service?
it's going to be on the
or-
Disney streaming
Okay.
service for sure. I think this is going to be their flagship thing. Like, hey, guess what, guys? You want to watch this badass show?
Sure.
Give us our $8 or whatever.
Well, hopefully it works out better than it did for CBS and Star Trek
Yeah.
Discovery.
What?
I'm going to go back and watch that one of these
What
days.
is this?
CBS, the streaming service. You can only watch the new Star Trek show on there. Is this news?
No, this is-
So streaming service is basically...
well, you combine like Star Trek, which is a franchise I'm relatively unfamiliar with CBS, which is are they still doing like Matlock?
I had to show him how to find sports games on Reddit today, so let's cut him some slack.
Okay.
There's
okay, honey.
there's
It'll be
layers
fine.
of confusion.
We've got
Yeah, there
years to
is.
build you
Yeah.
up to this. Okay.
Wheels within wheels here.
I just didn't know CBS was doing anything outside of like I don't know Matlock
Failing?
and Murphy Brown and like recreate. No, they're still doing that.
I mean, I'm sure that's what the TV lineup in Wisconsin is, but
Have
the
you,
rest of us left behind the early 90s?
I only know this just because of like my own just research. They brought back Magnum PI, they brought back Murphy Brown. They're bringing back shows that nobody's
MacGyver?
cared about
Magnum
since the 90s.
PI never
I'm just
left.
waiting for them to like dust off Jane Seymour and bring back Dr. Quinn Medicine. Touched by an
My
Angel.
wife would be so excited for that.
Oh, my mom.
That and Little House on the Prairie. Oh, my God.
I will never forget my childhood. The Sunday night lineup of Touched by an Angel followed by Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. It was a staple of the Arjiket household in 1992, 93.
Why you're so wholesome.
Got a score update, John?
I don't want to talk about it. It's 2-2. And
They're blowing the lead.
They're blowing
they
it.
did blow the lead. They have blown the lead. Now I'm just worried about them losing the game.
Blew it.
Thanks for bringing it up, though, because
No
honestly,
worries.
I had turned my phone upside down because I don't want to look at this right now.
What's the step beyond derailed? It's like we're not side quested and derailed. We're way off in the weeds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're
Table flipped.
Yeah, okay.
Something along the lines of that.
This is basically turned into a game of Skyrim where you've got to save the realm, but you spend the next 20 hours picking flowers.
Hey guys, remember Legion?
What's Legion?
Okay, so
there a
anything
Fallout
else
game
we want to
out?
say there for the Mandalorians?
No. I think that about covers it. I'm going to be. We'll be talking about it more as details come out for
This
it.
is already the longest news segment we've ever done.
Yeah, I know, right?
And I've got another one.
Oh,
for
boy.
you. Okay, so actually, I got turned on to this story by our sister cast, our affiliate cast over at Radio Free Tatooine. They were talking about it this week, and I went and dug up the article. But an interesting study out of the University of Southern California, research fellow Martin Bay basically went through and looked at the Twitter chat logs that surrounded The Last Jedi, and specifically over 1,200 tweets that were sent at director Rian Johnson, and he parsed all those negative ones, basically broke them down, analyzed the language, looked at their previous posts and all that, and fully 50.9% of them could be traced back to outright trolls, political agendas, and Russian botnets.
I like how you say them like they're mutually exclusive.
In Soviet Russia, film reviews you.
Yeah, right. But really interesting stuff. So he goes on to explain in his paper that basically he was the people that obviously didn't care about the movie or Star Wars, they were just there to propagate their political messages, and especially with the botnet, supporting extreme right-wing causes and the discrimination of gender, race, and sexuality. Obviously, Star Wars is not the only target here. They have and this is part of the reason they were able to trace it back to all the way back to the presidential elections. But Bay says that the likely objective was to increase media coverage of fandom conflict, thereby adding to further propagating a narrative of widespread discord and dysfunction in American society.
See, John, when you knock The Last Jedi, you're with the Russian trolls.
That's it, man. That's the lesson to be taken home.
See how that is? How does it feel, man? How does it feel to be a tool of Vladimir Putin?
Well, I mean, clearly there was people that still had issues with the film, but there's over 50% of the ones that were targeting at Rian Johnson were shown to be fraudulent, at least trollish in nature.
Well,
How many
didn't care.
Did they do a review of Kelly Marie Trans? Because
I
hell.
think that was all deleted. So.
Yeah. True.
I mean,
But interesting
I
stuff.
don't think it's. I don't know. I don't want to get too far into the weeds as far as arguing
again,
the
before we
social
go super
implications
political
of it.
and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I try to avoid doing that as much as possible, but I don't think you necessarily have to be a Russian bot to dislike the movie and recognize
No, absolutely
that
not. It's just kind of funny that they would find it interesting enough to mess with American society, and this is one of the avenues they picked with Star Wars. I mean, arguably one of the biggest franchises out there, so people care about it. And if they're trying to sow dissension and upset people, I guess that is one of the places you would go.
But why wouldn't they have done that with something like the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I mean, who says they haven't? This is just particularly dealing with Star Wars, but they did say that there was a list of things that they were like, oh, F this thing and F this other thing, and
And I think, I mean, if you're looking at driving a social wedge, there have been things that in The Last Jedi that it was kind of clear that Disney was trying to be more socially forward.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself is there are people out there that's just going to rub the wrong way.
Yeah, and John said he wanted to fire Kathleen Kennedy over that.
I did say that.
If
and I don't. And
right.
I don't
So,
change my mind.
I mean, if you can then from a Russian perspective stoke that even further to cause an even further drive of that wedge, it's seeing what's an issue and then working to exacerbate that issue to take it up to 11.
But apparently this is being used, and there's a Senate committee that's been dealing with this since the presidential election. It's just kind of like adding more data to their repository, I guess, of all this kind of foreign meddling.
There's a Senate committee investigating Russian trolling of Star Wars.
I mean,
in
addition to everything else.
It all goes into counterintelligence and social engineering.
I just
interference in American daily life by Russian bot farms and stuff like that.
I just want to know who the senator is who's going to be in charge of that is. And will he please start his
Grand
first
yeah.
grand hearing by starting with, I am the Senate.
I am the Senate.
Thank you.
That's how that needs to start.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think that pretty much that's enough news for this week.
That's enough Star Wars news.
Okay.
Since, other, outlets don't want to give us any news regarding their game, but...
It's been
That's
a
kind
minute.
of a big ask,
Yeah, it's
But
been
that
a
is
minute.
actually kind of interesting. I was thinking about this today. It's like before we had so many things in the pipeline. Now at this point we've got Wookiees and Chewie,
Yep.
Palp and guards, and the emplacement weapon,
And the specialists.
weapons.
and that's about it. And, well, specialists, sure.
Yeah.
But considering what we've had in the pipeline leading up to this,
Yeah.
there was a lot to talk about and a lot to speculate on, and now that's really slowed down a little bit.
It was nice when they kind of released news on a regular basis as opposed to just like throttling everything at us at what was it, Gen Con?
Right.
Yeah.
Just unleashing all of this news
Sure,
and then
and
just
making
staying
you wait.
quiet
Yeah.
about it.
It'll be interesting from a community perspective to see how all of the content creators, us, other podcasts, blogs, once all of that stuff kind of starts slowing down and everything kind of normalizes. Because I think you see that with any game that comes out. There's a big push of stuff within that
for the
first
initial,
year,
sure.
and then it kind of settles down into a more reliable rhythm.
That's basically what we
are
heard,
all
too.
of the producers going to start and content creators going to start talking about after there's not a bunch of units to do unit analyses on and stat analyses and how to paint this and what happens a year down the road for all of these content creators.
But just to address something John said, but if you did not come to Gen Con with like a whole slew of things to announce,
Yeah.
people would be Josh
Right.
would be rioting in the streets and just FFG, you can't do this.
So it's Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Well, in the meantime, we're just going to have to be happy with what we have so far and play the game as, everyone else is.
As
so,
God intended.
Yeah, exactly.
God
So-
being Alex Davey.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Speaking of which, God, please talk to us.
Yeah, please respond to our emails so we can, please. Yeah, it's. Are you there, God? It's me, Josh.
For some reason, I thought for sure you were asking for divine intervention here, but
I am.
We are.
From Alex
do you
Davey.
email God?
Yes. I emailed Legion God a little while
All right,
back.
now it makes more sense.
Yes.
Are you Irish? 'Cause
No.
that's probably why he's not communicating with you, because according to Braveheart, the only person fit to, communicate with God is an Irishman.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Getting back to Star Wars, so,
that historically accurate,
right?
Very.
that character.
dramatic piece. Yes.
So, Matt, you got a game in on Twitch this past week, correct?
Yeah, we streamed. God, it'd been a minute since I played a game, so luckily I conned one of the guys here locally to sit down and play with me on Friday night for our Twitch game, and it was nice. It felt good. I stuck with the Rebels because he wanted to play Empire because Boba, of course, had just come out, and but his list looked something like Veers and Boba, some bikes, a bunch of DLT Stormtroopers, Scout Sniper team, and then a Scout Sonic team. So that was it was really interesting. I went into the episode saying, okay, I kind of whipped this list together, and I was a little down on it. I was actually kind of surprised how it ended up performing. So that was cool. But my list was Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, Force Reflexes on Luke, Fleet Troopers with the full upgrades and Scattergunner, Rebel Troopers ×2 with an extra Rebel Trooper, a Rebel Commando Squad with Duck and Cover, no other upgrades for heavy weapons or anything. I just wanted to play around with their Surges and their A280s. And then 3 ATRTs with rotary blasters.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, it's only 9 activations. This is probably going to be... And it turned out Gavin had 9 activations also, so it ended up being a really good game. But we played Clear Condition with Long March and then Intercept the Transmissions. So we were set up long ways across the table with the 3 transmission places in the middle. And it ended up being really close at the end. He got an early lead at the end of round 2, and it went up 2-1, and he was able to maintain that at the end of the 4th round. It was 4-2. But I had cleared out enough of his stuff and sent Luke. Luke was a champ, man. I hadn't played Luke and Han together, And I forgot how much work that man can do.
Yeah.
So he's mobile enough. He went and chopped the crap out of Boba Fett, and that was pretty cool.
He didn't get the whipcord on him?
He did get the whipcord on him,
Okay.
and he had like one wound left on him, and I'm trying to remember. I think just one of my commando team finished him off.
If only he had a lone rebel trooper to punch him in the face.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been good. But it came down to it where he basically only had his holding on to the objective on his side of the board on the long halves, and then I was taking the 2, and that would have tied it up to bring it to victory points, and I think I would have won that. But unfortunately, with the order of activation that we pulled, I had like one, Sergeant Skippy left in a squad that was going to contest or claim the first objective that he was able to get off and kill him. So I couldn't claim both objectives, so he ended up winning.
Oh,
but otherwise, yeah, no. But it was
it ended up being close.
It was a really good game. I had a lot of fun with it. I learned to fear and respect the scout trooper, especially when you've got Han Solo, who doesn't want to take round after round to the head. So.
So the sniper teams were pretty effective, you think?
Yes. Just being able to say, okay, I'm going to ignore one level of your cover, and you don't get to save against that. Sure, you might be lucky, but Hypersonic says, or Pierce says that we don't care about that. So my traditional, hiding behind cover and putting dodge tokens, I had to break line of sight completely. And the way he had it stationed, it was like up on top of a tower, so he could see down really easy, but I couldn't get guys close enough really to see up and see the models back. So it was really good positioning by him, and they ended up doing a lot of work that game.
So do you think that you're going to see more play from sniper teams from the Imperial side than from the Rebel side, just because of the Rebel propensity to take more hero characters?
Could be. I mean, overall, they're still relatively cheap, so I could definitely... just putting one in your list, I think, is a really good counter tech, especially if there's other snipers. Hey, if you can use your snipers to take out their snipers, then, hey, I think that's a good investment.
You said he had bombers too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How'd the bombers work?
They did really well, actually. So he ran them up real fast to basically mine the crap out of the secondary objective, and ended up blowing up. And I'm trying to remember what he took out. I think he put a bunch of wounds on Han. I'd have to go back and watch the video now. But I just remember having to work around that. And I had my fleet troopers coming up the side, and I wanted them to go take that objective. But because it was mined so heavily, he had 2 out there at one point, and then he was basically hiding his... I'd gotten some damage on his scout troops, and then he was keeping the rest out of line of sight and just daring me to go take it. And I was like, okay. So I had to go the long way around, and I ended up drawing fire from everything else. And it was, if I was to have made a mistake in that game, it was letting the scouts get set up and putting their mines out, because that completely changed the flow of that game. And especially with the long march, the way it ended up being, he controlled that area denial in the middle of the board, and it was just wretched to play against.
Well, yeah, with Long March, I mean, he's getting that advanced movement right after setup anyway, so he's already getting that jump on getting the center and being able to hold down the defenses like that, the objectives. That battlefield scenario probably played into his favor a lot more.
Yeah, it was definitely kind of an optimal setup for him, but it worked really well, and I was really impressed. But overall, very, very fun game.
Did your ATRTs do a lot of work?
They did okay. Not horrible. I mean, I think the first time I freaking rolled off with one, I ended up getting one hit with the 5 black dice and went away to cover, and I was just, yep, there's black dice.
That never happens. What are you talking about?
Yeah, not to you. Your black dice love you.
That's true.
But overall, they did okay. I sent one against the bike squad, and it did all right. I ended up putting 2 wounds on one of the bikes, and it was like, yep, there it is. And then they, of course, blasted the crap out of it, and yeah, it was bad. But fun game overall.
Nice. All right, well, we're going to
10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break here. Coming up, we're going to take a look at some of the new ways to use narrative within Star Wars Legion.
Tune in every Wednesday to Radio Free Tatooine, a Star Wars podcast that's better than some and worse than others. Take a trip to a water cooler far, far away as we bring some casual, fun conversation into the Star Wars podcasting community. Hosted by me, Sean, my sister Amy, and John. Radio Free Tatooine. We may not know what we're talking about, but we sure know how to record it. For more, visit RadioFreeTatooine.com, a proud member of the Radio Free Tatooine Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tatooine Network, recorded on location at Power 9 Games. Whether you're looking for the latest releases from Legion, X-Wing, 40K, Magic, or any of our other extensive inventory of board and card games, head to power9games.com and use coupon code OUTRIDER10 to get 10% off your order. Plus, shipping is free on orders over $100. Now, back to the Outriders.
Welcome back, Outriders. John, Josh, and Matt. And we got some stuff to talk about with narrative. So, with Star Wars Legion, kind of, not stagnant, but we haven't seen a whole lot of change within the competitive play. We want to try to find ways to incorporate some narrative into the gameplay. At least I do, because I'm kind of a nerd like that. Like, I like to actually have my own characters and build story and, develop your army.
Now, what exactly do you mean by narrative? Because I think if you look at a lot of like the Operation Blue Metal and a lot of the organized play stuff that they're doing, there's a narrative component to a lot of that because the missions branch based off of which way they go, but those are very set scenarios. So what exactly do you mean by narrative? Are you talking about something that's 800-point games only?
No, not at all.
Just
trying to find ways to incorporate like a creative way of telling a story or even recreating some historical battles. So
historical.
Well,
I know, right? Yeah.
It was a long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away.
You're right.
Sure.
Unless there's some weird bend in the space-time continuum, chronologically, it is historical.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't nerd out about that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, if you recalibrate the
actual
deflector
facts.
dish, then,
Yeah.
So one thing we were talking about doing for an event here at Power 9 is we were looking at recreating the Battle of Hoth.
Yes.
So Matt, you've kind of been instrumental in organizing the setup for this. What are what do we have planned so far?
Okay, so we're kind of sketching the outlines, and actually we'll probably use this as part of a brainstorming session for it. But the idea is we want to have a nice apocalypse-sized battle for Legion. Apocalypse battles, for those that don't know or haven't played 40K and that kind of, is basically you bring all your toys, you throw them on the table, and you have a giant game with a bunch of other people and like thousands of points of dudes on the table and just maximum carnage and mayhem and everything's dying and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's literally where you just like pick up all of your troops at one time and just put them back in the case.
Yeah. But because we're going to try to do a Battle of Hoth thing, we're going to try to limit it to characters and units that would be represented there. So obviously snow troopers are going to be good, Vader, Leia, Han, etc. I'm looking forward to the both of the emplacements, the E-Web and the 1.4D, because they are both featured.
I feel like those are going to have a pivotal role.
Mm-hmm. And basically what we're going to do is set up a series of different victory conditions for each of the players. So the Empire, and also the board is going to be broken up basically into two segments. There's going to be the big fields out in the snow and the tundra and all that for the main army approach. And then we actually have one of the guys here who has a MDF kind of modular corridor set up. So we're going to try to represent Echo Base with that. So we'll have more of the characters running around there and then Vader and the troops inside trying to chase them down and keep them from escaping on the Falcon. So that'll be one of the goals, is the Rebels to hold out for all 6 turns and able to evacuate the base. The Imperials will have like shield generators that they have to go blow up first to be able to access more troops into the base, that kind of thing.
So it's going to be like a battle of two fronts almost.
Yes,
You're going to have the main trench warfare and then, of course, this like almost like hallway kind of battle thing.
Right, run and gun. So we'll probably split the players depending on how many are working with it. So hey, if you want to come down to the store in December, we'll have availability for you.
Yeah, but, bring your toys.
Yeah,
all of them.
Yeah, and then so like you can even have a use for the airspeeders. They can go out and try to take down some ATSTs or something like that, because obviously there's going to be AT-ATs. One of the suggestions you had was to simulate like having an AT-AT on the board, just having like extra command cards for bombardments and things like that.
Yeah, you need some off-board artillery.
So
in this case,
not having AT-ATs or any kind of orbital bombardments is like having a recreation of the Battle of Midway with no aircraft carriers. Like,
well, and honestly, if you're going to do something like this, that scenario, if you don't have some sort of constant off-board bombardment, is heavily going to favor the rebels because they will be dug in.
Exactly,
They'll be in trenches. They'll be
they're going to be
placed.
outgunned. Definitely, we're going to
Right.
Yeah,
But I mean, to be able to dig them out because they're going to get cover too constantly. You're going to need some sort of off-board artillery that has blast that ignores cover to be able to root some of them out.
those mortar launchers are going to be great.
Yeah.
What's that?
mortar launchers.
Mortar
on it.
launchers,
Yeah.
sure.
So one of the ways we're thinking about incorporating that would be to simulate the presence of AT-ATs, kind of like use the coordinated bombardment, like like the ability that Leia has, but having that be a every turn thing, simulating that the AT-ATs are able to, to put fire on the rebel bases. Short of having the actual models on there, and obviously having them engaging with the airspeeders is a pivotal thing. But I feel like having the AT-STs.
I think one of the guys has like
off.
one of those popcorn bucket ones from Disney that he's converted up. It'd be kind of cool to put that as an objective. And it's static on the board. It's not actually doing anything. But if you can get your speeders to do like a couple passes around it, you can destroy it and then get rid of the
maybe you can reduce it.
Yeah,
That'd be kind of cool. I'd like to do that. And then, of course, we could use it as terrain as well.
Sure.
Because I feel like that just makes, the atmosphere that much better.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we'll have to use a larger table. Obviously,
Right.
because you're not going to be able to simulate all of those things. So we're thinking about doing what, like
either
two tables
6x6, yeah, basically, and then having like a quarter of the board taken up by Echo Base. But basically, we just want to have a large enough play field for the Imperials do have to, close with a base and do
Is
all that
6
kind of
turns
thing.
going to be enough to get there?
We might do like a sample game beforehand.
I think, yeah.
But so
the amount of real estate you're talking,
Right.
just to get, just doing moves across the length of 6 feet.
So to start the
double
base
moving
invasion,
is,
I think it's going to be, okay, here's the generators. You can probably blow them up on turn 1 or 2, and then the bases open up, the shuttle comes down, Vader and troopers storm the base, and that's when the second part of the battle starts. So you don't really have to make it all the way across, but for that scenario.
Have you ever played any like corridor-based games like that?
I've played a bit of Infinity in the past, and that's heavily terrain dependent. So, yeah.
But it is very 3D, though.
It is.
Whereas I think with this, it's going to be more like a 2D.
Yeah, unless we have like a hangar area where the Falcon is. Ooh, we should see if somebody's got a Falcon we could put in there, too.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So with me playing Horus Heresy or 30K, one of the game modes that is really popular is called Zone Mortalis.
Okay.
And Zone Mortalis is basically simulating shipboarding actions. And I would say it would be very similar to what you'd be looking at doing with an Echo Base.
Sure.
And they're a lot of fun. A lot of it is planning out, like, movement. Standby actions will be huge because you want to imagine, like, what are going to be the choke points? What halls are going to lead to,
all those bicycle helmets just quivering with anticipation.
Oh, exactly. Like, honestly, as much as I'm looking forward to the actual, trench warfare of the Battle of Hoth, I think getting, a couple of units of fleet troopers out there, hitting some hallway choke points and having Vader get in there up close and working his magic, I think that might be the most exciting part of this.
Do you want to play the Vader?
There's somebody out there. Yes. There's somebody out there making a Corellian blockade runner map.
Oh, crap.
They're crafting multiple floors because there's multiple decks on that ship. That would be really cool if you're doing like a scenario-based thing to just limit it to 4 units. Leia, Fleet Troopers, Stormtroopers, Vader. That's it.
I think maybe a couple units of Stormtroopers, a couple units of Fleet Troopers, or you just want to do
just
one unit?
Well, no. I'm not saying one unit of it.
Okay.
Just,
But those are that's
limited
the roster you have to choose from. Are just those units.
I wonder if they'll have a 3D. Well, we'll probably have Astromechs here soon because of the special attack.
You can't bring you walk down the hallway and oh hell, there's an ATRT.
Yeah.
Good thing we kept this in storage, Princess.
Right? Yeah.
Well, unless you walk into the
Spin
wrong
up them
hangar.
guns.
Well,
Yeah.
but I mean, even then, you're not going to just have an ATRT hanging out to
Wait, have you played Force Unleashed?
Yeah.
Wasn't that a thing? You walk into the hangar and listen to a bunch of AT. I know. But still,
The contempt on this man's face
I hope the
right
Brewers
now.
lose.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, wow. Dirty.
As he looks towards his phone.
They probably did. So
No, I don't know.
But hello, future people. They probably lost.
But, I mean, having something that's scenario-based that also restricts the units that are available to be used. Now, you talked a little bit about it for the Hoth thing, but, I mean, that's still a pretty expansive roster when you take into account speeders and ATRTs and troops ATSTs, and the emplaced weapons and da-da-da-da-da-da. Keep it simple.
I think one of the things we talked about early on was the Corellian campaign that they had for Armada, and you just mentioned again a little while ago. Right. It would be fantastic if they did something for Legion like that. But I bet if you went out and did some research, there's probably people already writing like scenario campaigns
I
and
think
things like
your
that.
best bet is going to be something similar to the Heroes of the Artillery Cluster user-made campaign.
Yeah.
That was very deep.
Yeah.
And very involved, which was neat, and you could play it co-op. And that would be a neat concept too. For those of you who aren't familiar, the Heroes of the Artillery Cluster campaign was a cooperative campaign in X-Wing.
Nice.
And instead of
you level up
X-Wing,
your pilot and your ship and equipment.
So instead of in X-Wing having your squadron that you flew, in Heroes of the Artillery Cluster you had one ship. And it started out very basic. You had an X-Wing or a Y-Wing, and that was it. But as you did stuff in the campaign, cooperatively with everybody else, you would gain XP, which would allow you to then put upgrades on it or to change to a different ship. The interesting thing about it was co-op against a quote-unquote AI.
Okay.
The person that had come up with this campaign had basically a logic table that, okay, this ship is so far away from these ships, so therefore they have to do this maneuver. Well, okay, he's got this much damage, or he could attack a ship with this much damage, so therefore he must take this action.
There was a randomization there. Usually it's a D6, so you couldn't totally game the system and know, okay, so if I come in this way, he's going to do this, and then I'll be able to blah.
Right. But so you had one person that just managed the AI, right?
Like a dealer in blackjack, kind of?
Kind of, yeah. So it was like, okay, I'm attacking this ship. I have a focus token. You couldn't, as the AI, you couldn't, I'm not going to spend the focus token.
Usually you'd have your own ship.
Right. You
the
had
AI is supposed to be,
it's like, if I can kill this guy, I'm going to kill him kind of thing as the AI. So yeah, I mean, it was neat. It was pretty cool. Yeah. I'd love to see something like that for Legion. Long-winded way of getting to this point.
Yeah,
I'd love to see something like that with Legion, where you start out as like 4 dudes in a stormtrooper squad, and then as you get XP, you can recruit another guy, or you can add a DLT, or you can add some upgrades, right? That would be cool. Like
it sounds like a kill team or something.
But it's kill team, but it's co-op because it's you and me, and then we
Does
have.
Does it have to be co-op for a campaign? I mean, I'd still prefer to play
something
other
like
players,
HOTAC, yeah.
Okay.
Where it's like we all start as our green squads, and the 3 of us have our green squads in this army, and then we go out and play these objectives, right?
So, along the lines of that, one thing I think it might be a little bit more difficult because you almost have to break it into like a skirmish game kind of thing, and I think that would totally change the game mechanics.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Sorry, just real quick, but the one thing that made that work for X-Wing is there were known template quantities. When you've got a system that you don't have to move the full distance and you can bend which way they turn, on the fly.
Sure.
That might be a little bit tougher to abstract for like an AI table. But sorry, John, go ahead.
No, well, one other side game, because believe it or not, some of us do play games as well besides just Star Wars Legion.
No, we don't. That's all we do.
Lies. Deception.
You're going to feed you to the pork gullet.
One game that I've been involved with recently was Age of Sigmar Path to Glory, and the Path to Glory is a narrative campaign where you...
That seems like such your jam. Like, if they could adapt that over to Star Wars, you would be such a happy dude.
I would, and honestly, I think it's something that it
Start
wouldn't
writing
be
it. Do it.
too hard to do.
Yeah.
So the way it works with that is you take a non-named leader, and based on the overall starting strength of that leader.
John's day one wish listing.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly, right? And
Yeah.
we're
Random
going to have that
Imperial,
soon.
random rebel commander dude.
Yeah, because then you can build your story for your guy. But that you can basically build your supporting cast, your supporting follower units based on the strength of your starting general. So, say you start with a guy who's expensive, like Darth Vader, maybe you get 3 follower units to start with.
Now, when you say follower unit, so in the terms of the Path to Glory, those are individual models.
Well,
so you get 3 followers, right? And it's three other dudes.
It depends.
No.
Like a
So-
retinue, or
Well, it depends on the strength of what you've got with you.
Okay.
So if we were to port that over to Star Wars Legion, okay, you would say, all right, Darth Vader gets 3 supporting followers. Now, one of those followers could be a unit of stormtroopers, or you could say, for 2 of those followers, you could use that to get a
ATST.
Speeder bike or something.
ATST or a speeder bike.
Okay.
You'd have to, kind of like factor in the power levels within those follower units too.
Sure.
Maybe an ATST would be all 3 follower slots.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to spend all of those to get the ATST. Maybe, a sniper team might be 1, but a scout team might be worth 2.
Okay.
Something along the lines of that.
Sure.
But you would, start out this cast with, a group of guys, and as you progress, as you play games, you would get upgrades, kind of like how you said with the X-Wing campaign. You
can actually spend your XP to get the
upgrades.
So you get a
or-
DLT.
Exactly.
or-
Yep.
yeah.
So everything else would start bare bones, and I think this would work even better once we had those.
Could my stormtroopers ever upgrade to Veers's E11? That would be fantastic.
No.
Oh,
Maybe.
the blaster rifle.
You can come up with
Yeah.
your own upgrade cards.
Hey,
why not?
thanks,
this
bud.
is what building a narrative is all about.
Is this like
Yeah.
Final Fantasy, where you find a better sword in like a chest somewhere? Like, oh wow, it's Veers's.
Why not?
I got an E11 +1. Hey, Swig fans, remember that?
Maybe
Yes.
one of your maybe
Can you
one of
slice
your
my E11s, please?
Oh man, I made so much money slicing my weapons.
maybe one of your battles takes place on some kind of foundry planet, and you find
Sure.
better metals for your armor or something like that. Sure, why not?
After you kill all the tech priests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flesh
That's
is
what
weak.
we need.
Yeah.
We need a 40K Star Wars Legion mashup.
No, we don't.
Yes, we
No,
do.
That could be
If
interesting.
we can make an Aliens versus Predator movie and Batman
my
versus
God.
Superman, we can do Legion versus 40K. We could do it, people. Let's do it.
I'm,
Come on,
I'm
let's
sure
get all the
if
great
you go
minds.
over to one of the Chans out there, they have a ton of that stuff already.
Probably.
Paging Nick Freeman.
Oh,
We have something for
Nick,
you to
you've got
numbers
something
crunch.
better to do. Don't listen to him.
But
Anything, literally.
But there's other ways too of doing narrative. And we were talking with Armada having that campaign.
Yep.
What about combining some of FFG's properties and doing a Armada to Legion kind of combined battle?
So that's something I've wanted to do since day one of opening, Power 9 games. Is I've always wanted to do a Galactic Civil War conflict. The trouble is getting enough people to be invested enough to actually show it. So Armada, I don't know if you noticed, isn't like the most popular game out in the world.
No.
I'm sure. Yeah, no, I know. Really. There's a
not
few
only-
pockets out there.
It's
I'm sure.
Not just you can do it with X-wing
Yeah.
and Armada,
Yeah.
or
And you'd
whatever.
have better chances,
But,
but-
I mean that's now required. No, well, I won't say required because it's obviously optional, like every
Mm-hmm.
game is. But if you come up with a great idea, now this requires me to invest in 2 systems.
Well, hopefully
I
you would
mean-
pull in players from the communities that are represented there. So there's a lot of crossover between Legion and X-Wing, obviously. So that seems like it would do. If you introduce Armada, even as an optional, you might get, just speaking from my experience here, you might get 1 or 2 people to show up to play the game. So how much effect is it going to have on the overall Galactic War? Who knows?
Yeah, I know, but I mean, that's just, I've always been leery about something like that
Mm-hmm.
because I've seen suggestions on Reddit and Facebook where people are like, oh yeah, let's do something where it goes from Legion, or it goes from Armada, and you play a game of Armada, and then there's like, you got to get to the planet. So we play a game of X-Wing to get the transports through down to the planet, and then once you get on the planet, you do Legion. And it's like, just in core sets right there, that's $300.
Again, yeah, hopefully you introduce
and the
people.
time to invest in the game to be good enough at it to make it worth your while in the first place.
Why you guys gotta squash my dreams?
That's a big ask.
Let's just pretend that there's lots of
It's
people who
gonna
play
happen, John,
Armada,
don't
that we
worry.
have all
Yeah.
these models
No, all these
available
things.
already.
I tell you
and-
what, you buy me the ships and I'll play that game.
Now, if there was ever like a FFG convention, like so, Games Workshop has these like narrative event weekends where they have 150 people show up, and I went to one of them, and it was like, okay, you were a loyalist or a heretic, and depending on who won at the end of the day, a planet permanently became, a chaos planet or something in the lore and everything.
Yeah.
I think Fantasy Flight could do something like that if they were ever interested. Having
Sure.
a narrative weekend, you show up for 2 days, you have your fleet battles, your atmospheric, suborbital, whatever, and then you have your Imperial Assault Legion guys, and they're all getting points.
A Battle of Coruscant kind of thing where
That'd be dope.
you the Armada players play
Yeah.
one day, and then that sets up the conditions for the X-Wing players, which then sets up the conditions for the Legion
It'd
players.
be kind of fun to have it all going live, though. Like, okay,
Right.
if the Rebels are off to an early lead, then they might have access to, something else for reinforced shields for X-Wing players, or like
Or
rerolls for Legion.
You won Armada, so you get a one-time use orbital bombardment.
Sure.
Yeah.
something like that.
Where you're calling
But,
in
balancing it
naval
would obviously
fire
be
from
kinda-
out in space.
It would require a bit of coordination, but I think
Sure.
from a storytelling aspect,
Well, yeah,
I
because
think
you got to
it'd be a
call
lot
the
of fun.
fire down in the right place and not hit your own guys. Yeah, there's some coordination.
True.
Yeah.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps up our narrative for the or narrative talk for the day.
Yeah. Because we're really just throwing spaghetti at the wall now and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, it's fun to wish list.
But if you got any ideas, obviously,
hit us up.
let us know.
Yeah, especially for the Hoth one, because that's
Yeah.
something we're actually doing. So
that one's going to really happen. So.
Yeah.
And we're playing for December probably.
midway through December is what we're looking at.
And that sounds like fun, because one of the things that I really enjoyed the most when I was playing X-Wing was we got together and we knocked up there was a scenario that that somebody had made on how to run a trench run battle. So we went and bought the materials to make a trench, and then we played
So
this
you
trench
went and
run
made
scenario.
a trench run and knocked something up. Got it.
Yes. Sorry.
Brewers won.
There it is.
Brewers just won.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my God.
Can you actually pay attention to
Yes,
the show?
I. Phone's done its way. Thank you, Mike Moustakis.
I'm happy for
I
you.
cursed your name earlier, but he just won us the game.
All the Ewoks are now celebrating in their little tree village.
Like, seriously, I
setting
am.
off
Yeah.
fireworks.
They're playing the drums on Colorado Rockies batting helmets. Yeah.
Aw.
Oh.
It's game one, man. You got plenty of time to blow it. Don't worry.
Okay, and ending it on the high note, unless you are not, if you're a Rockies fan. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Sorry.
But I feel like Rockies fans are about as numerous as Brewers fans. So.
All 10 of you.
Yeah. Dozens of us.
Dozens.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening to us this week. Make sure you check back with us next week, because we're going to have a little terrain talk. We're going to experiment with a 3D printer here.
I'm in the 3D printing business now, baby.
Right.
Not well. Not a good 3D printer.
Well,
but I'm in it.
And not a business.
You
But
got a week to get
Well,
better at it.
The first thing I made was a gonk droid. Just for fun.
Hey,
Little
that's cool.
Start small.
Gonk. Gonk.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tatooine Network.
Only now, at the end, do you understand?
For more from the Outriders, make sure you like us on Twitter at Legion Outriders, subscribe to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Legion Outriders, and make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast. Thanks for listening.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.